Okay, let's dive right into this. We are looking at what has to be one of the most fascinating artistic homologies you will ever come across. I mean, on one side, we have this cutting-edge 2026 blockchain art project. It's an anthology of generative algorithmic poetry and on-chain glitch videos called The Subtle Seven Reimagined Journeys of Destiny and Self by SurR.Ai. And then, on the exact opposite side of the spectrum, we have a deeply esoteric underground Soviet text from 1990. Now, at first glance, you're probably thinking, okay, a Web3 Phygital art collection and late Soviet mystical samizdat, those are worlds apart. But as we're going to see, the architecture beneath them is absolutely identical.
So what's the connection? Well, there's really only one single through line you need to keep in mind for this whole explainer. Avessalom Podvodnyy, back in 1990, did exactly what SurR.Ai is doing in 2026. Both creators took a buried esoteric inheritance, this hidden framework of the soul, and they deliberately recoded it for a completely new medium and a completely new attention economy. Basically, method rhymes with method. And to really grasp this 2026 digital matrix, we first have to unpack that 1990s Soviet manuscript.
And the historical coincidence here? It's just a story of profound awe. Picture this. It's the 1950s. A man named Daniil Andreev is sitting in a cell in Velimir prison, convicted of anti-Soviet activity. And right there, in that cell, he composes an entire cosmological treatise called Rose of the World. His widow actually hides the manuscript for decades. Then, jump to 1989. As the Soviet Union begins to fracture, this prison-born cosmology finally erupts into legal public print. The very next year, riding this massive wave of sudden spiritual visibility, Avessalom Podvodnyy publishes his own text, The Subtle Seven. That timing? Absolutely no accident. The old world was ending, and a completely new architecture of reality was rushing in to fill the void.
What's brilliant is that Podvodnyy gave his framework a highly charged title, the Bill of Rights and Actual Possibilities. You have to understand, in 1990, the phrase Bill of Rights was absolutely electric in the Russian language. The Soviet Union was collapsing. The country was literally drafting its own civil constitution. And right in the middle of this huge political upheaval, Podvodnyy reaches for that exact juridical phrase and applies it directly to the human soul. It's this incredible political spiritual provocation. He's essentially saying, hey, your soul has an inalienable constitution too.
So let's take a look at the actual architecture of the soul constitution. It involves 7 rights, 7 chakras, and 1 major inversion.
Podvodnyy built this highly structured framework to categorize invisible parasitic entities. He genuinely believed there are subtle forces manipulating our impulses, literally feeding off our psychological and emotional energy. But he didn't just list a bunch of demons, he created an architecture of resistance. Let's look at how he maps this out, because honestly, it's wonderfully strange and we shouldn't shy away from that strangeness. He argues that every fundamental spiritual right you have is the direct antithesis of a specific subtle entity sitting at a specific chakra. For example, up at the crown chakra sits the dragon of personal self-assertion, which exists just to block your fundamental right to stand before God and be accountable. Move down to the throat chakra and you find the hasty one, an entity that destroys forms before they can crystallize, keeping you trapped in this frantic cult of steed. Its exact antithesis? Your right to successfully complete your endeavors. And all the way down at the root chakra, you've got the serpent of cynicism constantly trying to sever your basic grounding, opposing your absolute simplest right, the right to live.
And here is where we see a brilliant structural inversion. Normally, in esoteric traditions like Kundalini, the path ascends. You start at the root and work your way up to the crown. But Podvodny's Bill of Rights flows downwards. It starts with unmediated divine communion way up at the top and cascades all the way down to the simple, raw fact of being alive at the bottom. The rights literally descend from the cosmos straight into the physical body. Which brings us to how this framework was actually put together. It's what we could call the Great Esoteric Remix. We really have to slow down here and be clear about Podvodny's role. He was not the sole originator of these ideas. He was a synthesizer. He was essentially doing a massive remix, pulling together streams of thought that had been circulating underground for decades. He takes Daniil Andreev's prison cosmology. Then he pulls in the tantric chakra system that reached Russia through theosophy. He incorporates Gurdjieff's concept of the many eyes, this idea that we don't have one permanent self but a bunch of competing voices. On top of that, he adds Eliphas Levi's concept of egregores and the Buddhist framework of mental hindrances. He wove all of this together. And acknowledging that his work is a remix is absolutely vital because, as you'll see, that is exactly what licenses SurR.Ai to do another remix in 2026.
He took all these dense, ancient frameworks and just completely blended them. You've got esoteric mysticism, psychological typology, and this bold political, juridical metaphor of a Bill of Rights. This synthesis natively blends ancient cosmic wars with modern legal rights, creating this uniquely powerful, accessible psychological map. It's a map a modern person can actually use to observe their own mind. So, fast forward to 2026. Let's see how this matrix gets translated for a new era. How do we actually get from a 1990s Soviet text to a 2026 digital art anthology? We get there through translation. Like I said earlier, method rhymes with method. In 1990, Podvodnyy translated his esoteric inheritance into zoomorphic prose, giving us the dragon, the yellow man, the serpent, and wrapped it all in a juridical title. In 2026, SurR.Ai takes that exact same esoteric inheritance and translates it into algorithmic poems and on-chain glitch videos. It structurally bridges the print samizdat era directly into the Web3 Phygital art era. But to pull this off, SurR.Ai needed an engine to generate the poetry. And they found that engine in the metrics of Velimir Khlebnikov, who is a foundational Russian futurist poet. Now, mentioning Khlebnikov here isn't just dropping a name. It's a crucial key turning. See, Khlebnikov wasn't just a poet. He was a mathematician who believed the entire cosmos was structured in nameable units. His masterwork, Tables of Fate, argued that time, human history, and even artistic inspiration are regulated by absolute, immutable numerical equations. And this fits the chakra logic perfectly. Khlebnikov's deep belief in numerical temporal law just naturally mates with a sevenfold cosmic architecture.
Actually, SurR.Ai uses Khlebnikov's exact base 3 descending power series calculation to structure their entire anthology. When you calculate his formula for cyclical shifts, which is 3 to the power of 5 plus 3 to the power of 4, cascading all the way down to 0 plus 1, it equals exactly 365. SurR.Ai uses this precise equation to map the spiritual journey across a literal planetary year. It is mathematical, poetic, and spiritual, all at the exact same time. And then there's the visual component, the glitch art. The most vital concept to grasp here is that the glitch aesthetic used by SurR.Ai is not merely a stylistic choice. It's structurally exact. Remember Podvodny's 7 subtle entities? They are quite literally glitches in the human signal. They're subroutines pulling energy right off your main channel. By rendering these entities as digital glitches and minting them on a proof-of-work blockchain, SurR.Ai is freezing the entity's interference. They are trapping the parasite in an immutable cryptographic anchor. It's glitch as a precise diagnosis. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the descent, the final ride. This is the climax of this incredible synthesis, the final, irreducible point of Podvodny's downward flow. After you strip away all the complex cosmology, all the esoteric history, the chakras, the dragons, and the mathematical poetry, what are you left with? The final right reserved for the Muladhara root chakra is simply the right to live. That's it, the simplest possible right. Against the serpent of cynicism, against the despair, against all the static and noise of the system, the ultimate spiritual entitlement is just to be alive and grounded in reality. Which leaves us with a really powerful question for our own modern attention economy. We live in an era of infinite digital generation, right? Our attention is constantly being fragmented. So if your attention is an energy stream, what subtle entities, what digital glitches are feeding on your signal today? It's a profound thought to take with you as you navigate your own digital and spiritual sovereignty.